Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of #Patchats here on the brand new Laugh at Pat network. Now, those of you who have been Pat fans for a while may remember Patchats from his less than unpopular podcast project, Pat's Podcasts, and his somehow more self-indulgent travel podcast, More to Explore, still available at moretoexplore.com. And as you might have already discerned, Patrick Moore is a triple Pisces, double only child, and devilishly handsome, if I do say so myself. So when we thought about who was intelligent enough, who was quick enough, funny enough, and handsome enough not to look like a total ogre next to this tall drink of water, there was really only one obvious choice. So why don't you sit back, crack a coconut water or a chocolate stout, two of my guests' favorite drinks, and enjoy this in-depth dive into the brilliant mind of my guest, the owner, operator, and creator of the Laugh at Pat YouTube channel, Patrick Moore, for this true #Patchat. So, welcome to the show. Wow, thank you. I thought we talked about the fact that we weren't going to do that in whole introduction. I thought we talked before that okay, that's fine. Well, I guess let's just get into it. Yeah, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share this Patchats thing with all of you guys, to do some more interviews here with this great host of Patchats and do some solo episodes. Hopefully get some cool exclusive interviews with great guests like my friends or possibly even my mother. So yeah, I'm excited. That sounds wonderful. I knew we're all really excited to see what you come up with next, you beautiful genius. So obviously we're old friends, but why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself? Well, if you couldn't tell by the name of my YouTube channel, my name is Patrick, hence Laugh at Pat. So yeah, I was born Patrick Fannin Moore in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I grew up here in Northern California in this beautiful, beautiful area of the world that I feel very lucky to be from, with my lovely mothers who are, I said mothers, and they are lesbians, not Mormon polygamists. So that's good. I had a lovely time with them. And so when I'm cooking in my mom's kitchen, that's literally my mom's kitchen, because I'm also currently living in my parents' converted garage. So that's where I'm ringing in my 30s, which is a fun place to be. And since I'm, living my best life in my parents' garage, I thought, hey, why not take that broadcasting degree that I got in university and use it for making a YouTube channel, because that's what broadcasting degrees are for, not for being a bank teller or working an office job in a cubicle or working at a grocery store or any of the other career paths I've chosen since. But yeah, so I went to university in Washington State, and then I moved to Seattle, which I loved Seattle. Seattle was it's an amazing city, and I had an amazing time there. But I hated my office job. It was terrible for me, and so I saved up some money and I quit my job and decided to live out of my car and do a road trip throughout the western United States and go backpacking and backcountry camping in a lot of the national parks and stuff throughout the US. And so I did that, and then realized I had only gone backpacking twice in my life. Luckily, it all worked out and I had a nice time, and it was a very profound, important experience for me. And from that, I caught the travel bug. And so after that, I moved home and saved up some money and then went to Central and South America, down to Patagonia, and traveled down there. And that's where I met my partner, who's from Germany. And so since then, there've been some twists and turns along the way, but the last year I've been kind of splitting time between mooching off my parents here in California and mooching off my partner in Berlin. And that's been great experience, and that's a little bit about me. Wow, I never would have guessed that you were 30. To me, you really don't look a day over 25, and a fit and healthy 25, too, if I do say so myself. I mean, like, really quite healthy. But yeah, that was quite the answer. I mean, I guess you didn't learn a lot about editing yourself during your travels, but that's really nice. So you've introduced us to several different characters on the Laugh at Pat channel so far. But can you tell us a little bit about, what inspired you for all of these different videos and characters and things? Yeah, so, where does anything come from? Like, I don't know, you just get little ideas and stuff and you think, oh, maybe that would be funny or whatever. And, for me, the characters that I have on Laugh at Pat are kind of all like they're parts of my personality or parts of who I was or still am a little bit. And I've just taken those parts and, isolated the parts about it that I think are funny and turned it up to 11 to try to make it silly and more humorous. And I think that's kind of the place I feel the most comfortable making jokes is being, making fun of myself. And so that's kind of where my characters come from, is they're all kind of a part of something I really believe in or that is really a part of me. And that's what makes it the most fun to kind of joke around and make fun of with. Oh, wow. That is really, really interesting. So, can you walk us through a little bit about each character and just tell us a little bit more about each one? My personal favorite is Patrick Rainbow Heartlove. So can we start there? Yeah, sure. So, yeah, Patrick Rainbow Heartlove is. I love Patrick Rainbow Heartlove too. So the Patrick Rainbow thing came from a story that my parents used to tell me about when I was in preschool, so like 3 or 4 years old. And some of the parents were asking me like what my middle name was, and I told them that my middle name was Rainbow, and they're like, well, his parents are lesbians, I guess maybe his middle name is Rainbow. But I was just bullshitting with them because I guess even as a 3-year-old I was kind of a fucker. And so that's where the rainbow thing came from. And that character is really inspired just by if you couldn't tell by looking at me, I'm kind of a hippie. And, I grew up, my childhood was infused with lots of things that forced me to turn out this way. Not forced me, but, like my parents had me certified as an energy healer, or I went to circus camp and, things like just a bunch of different things like that. And so it's kind of that's part of that character. And then also, when I moved back after my road trip, I started working at this organic and natural food store. Shout out the Good Earth, the best independently owned organic and natural food store in California, one of the OG organic food stores. And just like working there, it was like, I loved it. It felt like coming home. Like those were my people. And it was the clean, healthy food is something I'm passionate about, and, all of that kind of stuff. And so it was just kind of an amalgamation of like people I've met at that store and kind of part of my own personality, as I said, but just turning it up to 11. So that's Patrick Rainbow, Heartlove. Patricia is one of the other characters that I like to do, and she kind of comes from the fact that I have a huge part of myself that really self-identifies with like basic white girl culture, like things that people make fun of as being like basic white girl stuff, I love I love it, you know? And like the example I like to point to is, when I was in high school, I used to love watching The OC and also like a lot of the kind of shitty MTV reality shows like Laguna Beach. Like I owned all of the seasons on DVD and I was so into it. And my best friend and we used to love those shows, but like being high school teenage boys, we're like, oh, we can't like The OC and Laguna Beach because masculinity and whatever bullshit. And so we made up code names. We would call the OC Red Dog and Laguna Beach Delta One so that we could talk about it at school without people knowing that we're watching these shows we thought were too girly to be watching. And so, yeah, I don't know. I've just always had like this little bit of kind of like white girl, like valley girl, oh my God, whatever, in me. And so it's just fun to kind of find a place where I can honor that and like let it out and let her be her fiercest self, you know? And then the other character, Dubstep Pat, obviously. I was really like when I was like 22, 23, I started getting really into EDM and dubstep, and I was just like, I was obnoxious about it. I was like, this is the only good thing. Everything else is stupid. Dubstep is the shit. If you don't like dubstep, you can fuck yourself. Like, I don't know if I said those actual words, but I feel like it's a possibility I might have said those actual words, and that was definitely like my attitude. And I still love dubstep, and I love bass music, and I love all that shit, but it's just kind of poking some fun at this version of myself who thought he was so sick for being into dubstep and like getting into like raving and all of that kind of stuff. And so, and I still love dubstep, but there's just parts of dubstep culture that are silly to me. And if we can't laugh at ourselves, like, what are we doing? So that's kind of where Dubstep Pat. And then, the truth is out there, Pat, real fake facts, Pat, is kind of my stoner conspiracy theorist, doesn't trust the mainstream media or government version of myself, which is true. Like, I think there's a lot of bullshit out there. And I also love like kind of ridiculous conspiracy theories. And so I love like absurdist, bizarre humor. And so just the idea of making some weird shit and like being kind of Alex Jonesy, or this is a random call out, but like this guy called the Fed Smoker who gained some fame on the internet. Those were kind of like influences to me of like where that character could come from. But it's just this, again, part of myself that's true, that I was just like, okay, what if I took this part of myself that doesn't trust the media and stuff and just turned it up to 11 and made him really care about fucking raccoons or whatever. So fun. I think I speak for everyone when I say I feel, like just a whole new connection with the characters now. I mean, I already enjoyed and subscribed, obviously, to your channel because of its great content. But now that I have the context as well, I just feel even more engaged. But anyways, can you give us a little insight into what's to come? Any new characters or videos in the works? Yeah, I'm really excited for next week's video. Hopefully it comes out next week, so long as I get my shit together. But Minister Mo is gonna be providing some guidance for his flock. He's gonna be taking calls and asking people to subscribe for the power of the GODD, big man upstairs. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about that video. I'm actually a registered minister. I've performed 2 weddings, and I've always just been kind of attracted to that, like, Southern Baptist, like, fire and brimstone thing. And so that's a video I'm really excited coming out. I've got more Dubstep Pat, more, Patricia's nighttime routine, more Patricia makeup tutorials, hair care, more real fake facts, the real fake facts of intermittent fasting. It's coming. We need to know the truth. And lots more cooking in my mom's kitchen as well. And I've got some ideas for some other videos too that I haven't gotten a chance to shoot yet, but I'll either shoot them hopefully soon or in the fall. But I got a lot more stuff that I'm really excited about coming out, and I'm excited to share it with all of you guys. But look out for Minister Moore next week, coming at ya. So let's change gears for a minute and get a little high-minded. And I'm not referring to the water pipe on the desk of The Truth Is Out There, Pat. I'm wondering what or who inspires you creatively? What kind of things are there that really get you and inspire you?
That's a great question.
In the
Thank
work
you for
that you're
asking
doing?
that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I don't know. I've always been kind of inspired by like weird and like absurdist humor, and also just like very silly humor. Like the very first thing I ever loved comedically was the Three Stooges. And I remember my friend Matt and I going to the like video store, which video stores used to be a thing where you would go get your Netflix streaming things at a physical location and bring it home with you. Anyways, we would get these VHS tapes of the Three Stooges and just like die laughing at them falling over and beating the shit out of each other, and just like it's just silly, stupid humor. And so that was a big influence. Also, like Monty Python, my godfather got me into Monty Python, and I always just loved that kind of, silly and kind of absurd stuff. I also, growing up, like the Ali G show was another one that like really blew my mind. Of course, the Chappelle show, that those things were huge. Also, when I was young too, like my godparents got me into Saturday Night Live, like the older ones with Eddie Murphy and with Chris Farley, Will Ferrell. Like those were just like really big influences on me for sure when I was growing up. And like more currently, the stuff that people have been doing with kind of like animation recently, and like kind of pushing the line of what we used to kind of think possible as far as like how like lewd or crude you could make things. Rick and Morty, I think, is a great example of like a really hilarious and really smart show. Also, Big Mouth, this new show, Midnight Gospel, that just came out on Netflix, think is really, it's cool, like a very new original idea. And I also like loved the Judd Apatow movies growing up. All of that stuff I think was really, really, really cool.
So to stay up our own asses for a moment,
me the most
where did you first notice your creativity, and what does what does that process look like now? Where did the creativity start, and then how are the videos coming together?
That's a good question. Also, another great question. Wow. No,
I guess for me, I think a lot of my creativity just comes from the fact that like I'm an only child, and so growing up, I spent a lot of time just alone playing with my toys and just making up little stories about like what was happening with this toy car and this toy airplane, and just running back and forth up and down my living room, making up all of these different stories and little weird ideas. And I remember specifically this memory. My parents sent me to circus camp, which in and of itself is ridiculous. Like, I went to circus camp. That's hilarious. But also it was the circus camp of this guy named Wavy Gravy, who, if you don't know who Wavy Gravy is, he was this psychedelic clown that would travel around with the Grateful Dead. And then he had a circus camp, and that's where my parents sent me, like my one stay away camp experience. And I remember being at that camp, and I used to love like making up stories and talking to myself, and I was following this bee up to the water slide, and I was making up a story about these people inside the bee flying it and whatnot and talking to each other. And these kids came up to behind me, and they're like, "Who are you talking to? What are you talking about?" And realizing like I'm the weird kid at Wavy Gravy's circus camp, and being like, I gotta get my shit together. I gotta lock it down. So that's kind of, I think, where a lot of my creativity and like weirdness comes from, is just like being silly and weird by myself. So hearing you talk about this YouTube channel and the travel you've done and these creative projects, I guess I kind of wonder, like, how do you have the time to do this? How are you kind of like financially supporting yourself besides crashing with your parents or your partners rent free?
Well, I work, in the last few years, what I've been doing is I do commercial salmon fishing in Alaska. And so I work for 2 months in Alaska on a fishing boat in June and July. And, you make a lot of money for 2 months worth of work. It's not a lot of money to live off of for a whole year, but I found ways to kind of be cheap and, save money and just kind of I date my partner is a student, so she's also into cheap living, so that's good. And yeah, so I've made it work, but it's hard work for sure, and you earn that money, but it's also a really cool experience. You see like beluga whales and seals and orcas and stuff up there. And I mean, the thing that's been the real opportunity for me, besides being able to travel and visit some places and, live a kind of more nomadic, some would say piece of shit lifestyle, it's also given me a lot of time to just like pursue my creative hobbies and interests, and that's helped me kind of realize the stuff I like doing and kind of given me more, helped start the ball rolling and getting more self-confidence and being able to be like, okay, maybe this isn't that great, but I'm having a good time doing it, so I should just put it out there. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm financing this whole thing. So I know your time is very, very, very valuable. So let's wrap things up a bit with a quick lightning round. Let's start with, who is your favorite musician? That would have to be Grizz. I've seen him. He's definitely the person I've seen play live the most of anybody. He's an awesome music producer, saxophone player, and I love his music. I grew up like loving funk and soul music, but I also do love like dubstep and electronic stuff, and he has just this amazing fusion of those genres that's super cool. And since I found it, I've just been a huge fan. And he's also someone who's inspired me because watching him like progress and grow as an artist and everything, and seeing the ways he like pushes himself to make new types of music, or do a live band experience instead of just a DJ thing, and push his live show in different ways. It's just been cool and inspiring to me to be like, oh yeah, you should push yourself creatively and try new things. So it's got to be Grizz. What has been your greatest athletic accomplishment? Chocolate chip cookies all the way. Chocolate chip cookies. Yee yee. So I ran cross country and track in high school and for a little while in college. And you might be thinking to yourself that I'm about to tell you about some fast time I ran or some, achievement in, the realm of real running competitions. But no, actually my greatest my greatest accomplishment, I think, athletically would have to be the fact that I completed the 100 challenge, which is where you drink 100 beers and run 100 miles in a week. And it took its toll, but I did that shit. So I think that's gotta be my answer. Tell us the name of your all-time favorite movie. Ooh, so I mentioned earlier, like the Judd Apatow movies are so great, but specifically, I mean, he didn't make this one, he was a producer on it, but Superbad is my all-time favorite movie, hands down. And I mean, it's just such a well-written movie. It's aged really well. It's hilarious. I still laugh. But also, like, the context of it came out when I was like 17 or so, and it's just so perfectly aimed at the existence of being like a teenage boy. That movie has got to be number one for me. What is the first concert My first concert was James Brown, I believe at the Fox Theater in Oakland. My godparents took me, and I was a big James Brown fan, and my godfather is a big like funk and soul fan, and he kind of introduced me to that stuff. And so we went and saw him before he passed away, and he was kind of on his last legs. It wasn't the full James Brown experience, but it was still a great show, like something I'll definitely never forget. Why don't you tell us your top 3 favorite podcasts? I love the Your Mom's House podcast on YouTube. Tom Segura, Christina Pajinski, hilarious. watching weird internet clips and making fun of them. Also, I just love like podcasts that have great inside jokes, and that one is one that really has good inside jokes. The Honeydew with Ryan Sickler is another really, really good one. I love that one. Taking like highlighting the lowlights and finding a way to laugh at them. And the Duncan Trussell Family Hour, that's one that's been an influence to me just because Duncan Trussell has like a very absurdist, bizarre
And what about, tell us some of
humor,
your favorite
and
comedians.
I just love it, and it's really good. Again, I think my answers are probably not super original, but I love, Bill Burr, Louis C.K. His new special was amazing. It was so funny to hear him kind of give his take on the experience of what's happened to him over the last couple years. Also Tom Segura, and then I just watched a new comedian, Taylor Tomlinson. That's right, Taylor Tomlinson, who she was hilarious. So yeah, those would Dave Chappelle, obviously. Yeah.
And what about your most influential book?
That would be a two-way tie between Harry Potter and then a Tara Brach book called, I think it's called Forgiveness or Embracing Yourself with a Buddha Heart or something. I'm definitely screwing up the title of that book, but Tara Brach, it's a really influential book about like being kind to yourself and loving yourself and, not putting yourself down. And it was really, I read that when I was on that road trip when I was like 25, and that book really changed my life. That and Harry Potter.
Liquor, beer, wine, or weed?
I think I got to choose weed for that one. I do love a glass of red wine, but I also do love smoking a joint. So,
what is your favorite season?
in California, springtime. Springtime is the best. In Washington, fall. I think.
Say no to
that's my
drugs?
answer, and I'm sticking with it. No. I mean, stay no to drugs until you're like 22 or 25, and then don't.
Your favorite feeling?
I love my favorite feeling is just like being cozy. Like I love after like hiking or just like working and being dirty, you take a shower and you get in your sheets and it's like warm and
this
cozy.
is crazy.
Just
You're
being cozy.
not going to believe it, but actually all of your answers are 100% match with mine. Like right down the list. I mean, like really, like what are the odds? Should we exchange phone numbers? Okay, so we're gonna end every show like this, where you're gonna roll a dice and decide which of the 5 closing questions you'll answer to end the show. Now, of course, we forgot the dice, so I'll just read the questions and then we'll choose a couple for you to answer. How about? So number 1 is tell us about your mom. Number 2 is tell us about your first drug experience. Number 3 is tell us about your first masturbation or sex experience. Number 4 is tell us what your key to or advice about being happy is. Number 5 is tell us what you love about one of your best friends or your partner and how you met. And number 6 is tell us about a time where you were the most scared or laughed the hardest.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with the drug experience one. The first time I got high, I was 18. Pineapple Express was coming out for a midnight show, and my friend had a medical marijuana card because this was back when there was just medical marijuana, and he got me a cookie because I was a runner and I didn't want to hurt my lungs. And so I ate that cookie, and basically, they were smoking. Okay, so we are back from some technical difficulties, which I have to give the greatest apology for. I really, I'm the one who's conducting this hashtag Pat Chat, and I told him the technology was flawless, perfect, beautiful technology, and that didn't work out, and for that I apologize to you and to all of you out there. That's not the professionalism that we are trying to bring to the Laugh at Pat brand and the Laugh at Pat YouTube channel. So we really have to give our sincerest apologies for that. And I know that we got cut off there, but luckily it was the very end of the interview, so we're back now to just kind of to put a bow on it, so to speak, to wrap things up, share a few final thoughts, and to say goodbye in a true and nice way. And again, I do apologize to you for the way that my failure has affected our interview today. That is totally unprofessional, and I'm gonna feel awful about this all afternoon. So I just really again have to say that I just feel like a piece of shit, and I know all of you out there are gonna get in the comments and let me know and let me have it, because he was giving this great answer about these final 6 questions that we're going to be ending every show with, which I think is really a fun concept, and I'm really looking forward to that. These 6 questions that guests who come on, we're going to have them answer one of those, and I think that could be fun and funny. And so I again, my sincerest apologies to you, and yeah, well, I just really kind of feel like it was your responsibility. You set up the interview. I thought you would handle the technology. The people wanted to know my answer about like my drug experience, and then I also shared that really nice key to happiness, and now the people aren't even going to get that. And so that's kind of frustrating for me. I felt like I entrusted you to make this interview go well and handle the technology and everything, and now you're kind of making me look stupid in front of my fans. So I don't really appreciate it. I guess if people want to know the end of the story, I ate the cookie and then I slept for a long time, and my friends ate all of the snacks that I bought at the movie theater, and my key to happiness is to have a hobby. So it was a lot better said the last time, but he screwed it up. So, oh well, that's it. I guess I'll give it back to you then. Okay, well, Patrick, I have to say thank you. You have been a delightful guest, a delightful interview, and really just the most gracious and interesting that a guest could ever be. Just a true gem. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you, all of you out there, for watching. I really appreciate it. And of course, if you have more questions, please get into the comments and, let me ask myself those questions. But let me know which ones you want to hear in the comments. And, most importantly is to help me fill the endless need for attention and admiration by clicking the subscribe button. So yes, thank you again for watching. Thank you guys so much. And as his favorite artist Grizz says, show love, spread love.